Perfect. Welcome and thank you for joining us today. My name is Atika and I work at the Department for Education. Today we will be discussing this year's arrangements for the National Tutoring Programme and how we can deliver your school to deliver tutoring. As this is the final term of NTP, we will be talking about how to make the most of your funding before the end of the programme, even if you don't plan to spend it in full. During the webinar, we will hear from Sandra Stapleton, Principal of the Nottingham Emmanuel School, and Ben from Education Development Trust. Before we start, I'll quickly run through some housekeeping. The webinar will be recorded and will last 45 minutes. Your mics and cameras are switched off, so please type all your questions and comments in the chat as we go. My colleagues are on hand to answer them. If you find the chat function distracting, you can mute the notifications using the More button at the top of your screen. We will email out consolidated lists of questions and responses after today's webinar. Throughout the presentation slides, you'll see links to guidance and email addresses. Don't worry about writing these down. We will send you the slides afterwards. Let's make a start. This is the content we will cover today. First, I'll give you an overview of arrangements for this year. We'll then hear from Sandra Stapleton at the Nottingham Emmanuel School about their experience using the NTP. I'll share some guidance around planning tuition in the holidays. We'll talk about some of the things to consider when you're planning tutoring in your school. And finally, we'll look at some of the myths that are still out there about NTP and address any misconceptions you may have. And as I said a moment ago, please add any questions or comments into the chat. I'm now going to talk through the arrangements for 2023 and 2024, pointing out what's changed from last year and confirming where things have stayed the same. We are pleased to say the National Tutoring Programme is supporting schools to deliver tutoring on an unprecedented scale, and as of October 2023, almost 5 million courses have been started since the programme began in November 2020. We are really grateful to school leaders and your staff and tutors for helping the programme to reach so many pupils. Thank you. Arrangements for this academic year are very similar to last year. There are still 3 tuition routes, so you can deliver tutoring using external organisations known as tuition partners, use an academic mentor already in post, or pay your own school staff. Please note, this year's deadline to request a new academic mentor has now passed. We have not made any changes to the subjects in scope of NTP or to group sizes and other tutoring arrangements. As before, you will have the flexibility to design tutoring that meets your schools and pupils' needs. The guidance for schools provides information on which pupils schools should consider for tutoring. When identifying pupils for tutorings, you should focus on disadvantaged pupils, pupils who are working below the relevant test or grade boundary in an applicable subject, pupils with SEND. You may also consider whether tutoring could help pupils who are persistently absent, but as in previous years, schools can use their discretion to offer tutoring to any pupil they feel requires additional support. This year, the subsidy is 50%. This means your NTP grant can be used to cover half of your school's tutoring costs, up to maximum hourly rates, which are up to £18 per pupil per hour for mainstream schools and up to £47 per pupil per hour in special schools. If you haven't already, you must check your school's individual allocation to see how much your NTP grant is for this year, and should note that in most cases it is lower than you received last year. You may wish to provide tuition outside of core school hours, including after school, at weekends, during school breaks, or the summer holidays. This is optional and is voluntary for pupils. Teachers should work closely with parents and pupils to ensure the right decision is made for each child. If an NTP tutor is employed outside of core school hours, their primary purpose should be to deliver tuition. NTP funding should not be used to provide childcare, enrichment, meals, or entertainment. The delivery guidelines for term time tutoring arrangements also apply to tuition outside of core school hours, along with the following additional considerations. Tutoring can take place in person or online, and you should make arrangements for the school site to be open outside core school hours if needed. You have the flexibility to organise tutoring outside core school hours, however best suits the needs of your tutors and pupils. For instance, delivering condensed summer tuition over 1 to 2 weeks or spread throughout the summer holidays. Schools retain their usual safeguarding responsibilities in relation to their pupils and must ensure a designated safeguarding need is available for the entire of the period in which tuition outside of core school hours take place. You are welcome to combine tutoring with independently organised initiatives outside of core school hours, such as private summer programmes taking place on school premises. However, NTP funding should be spent only on tutoring. NTP allows schools the flexibility to deliver tuition during the holidays for students who will benefit the most. Research from the Education Endowment Foundation found that, on average, pupils attending a holiday school can make 2 months additional progress compared with pupils who do not attend, and up to 4 months additional progress if the holiday school offers small group tuition led by highly trained and experienced teaching staff. Holiday tuition can help improve pupils' subject knowledge for the next academic year, support pupils at the transition from primary to secondary school, consolidate learning at the end of the year, and help to fill any gaps. Tutoring in the school holidays may need additional planning, depending on whether it's being delivered in person, on school premises, or remotely. On this slide, I'll briefly cover some of the things other schools have told us they've thought about to maximise pupils' attendance and engagement. Are your school staff needed? And if so, what is their availability? If you decide to use a tuition partner to deliver tutoring, who will their main contact be at the school? Try to engage parents and carers early and involve them in your planning. For example, it's helpful to understand from the outset if they have a family holiday booked. What is each student's availability? And based on your knowledge of them, when are they most likely to attend and engage with a tutoring session? One of the challenges of tutoring in the school holidays is how to ensure that pupils attend. Set up a clear route for communication between the school, parents, students, and tutors. In practice, this means ensuring each party can contact one another. This will allow you to hear feedback in real time and ensure you can send and receive important messages. Before each session, you might consider a reminder text to parents. And if a pupil doesn't arrive on time to their session, have someone on hand to follow up with the student and their parent. As mentioned earlier, schools do not have to use all of their funding in order to deliver tutoring via NTP. You can decide how much of your NTP allocation you wish to spend, depending on your school's needs and priorities. You might find it more appropriate to focus on supporting a smaller group of pupils using a proportion of your grant. Here are some examples of how to use your funding. Whilst examples 1 and 2 provide illustrations of how a school could support a large number of pupils within small group settings, I'd like to bring your attention to example 3 in particular. Example 3 shows you how you can use a small amount of funding, in this instance £288, to deliver tutoring to those pupils you identify as needing it the most. So example 3, 4 pupils receive a 12-hour package. Each tutor is paid £48 per hour. The total cost is £576. However, the total cost to school is £288. You can use the NTP grant to support pupils with special educational needs and disabilities. NTP funding can be used for alternative types of established evidence underpin academic interventions. On this slide, you can see some of the types of interventions that the NTP grant can be used for. We recognise that pupils with SEND may benefit from a boost to their progress in other academic areas, such as learning capabilities, social skills, and communication. For SEND pupils, you can also deliver tutoring through alternative types of interventions, such as speech and language therapy, fine and gross motor skills, example, holding pens, pencils, aiding writing development and other learning outcomes. Study skills, example, listening capability, homework, revision strategies, assistive technology skills, classwork strategies. Social skills and communication, example, role play, play interaction. Sensory-based interventions, for example, aiding information processing, sensory development, and sensory regulation. At the end of this academic year, you will be asked again to provide data on how much tutoring you have delivered in the year-end statement. We have created an NTP calculator tool to help schools plan and track their tutoring spend. You will need to complete the number of pupils given tutoring, the number of hours, and your costs. This will auto-populate the figures below it. You'll then have all the information you need to complete your year-end statement and the confidence that you are using the correct figures. We'll include a link to the calculator tool when we circulate these slides. I'd now like to invite Sandra from the Nottingham Emmanuel School.
Hello everybody, good afternoon. My name's Sandra Stapleton and like I've just said, I'm the principal at Nottingham Emmanuel School. We are part of the Archway Learning Trust. Nottingham Emmanuel School is a Church of England academy based in the city of Nottingham. I'm just going to start off by giving you a little bit of information about our context. If we could go to the next slide, please. Okay, so we are a very, very diverse school in the middle of Nottingham City. We have 15 out of 17 ethnic minority groups present, and we have 59 first languages. Every religion and none is represented within our school community. We draw children from some of the most economically deprived parts of the city, including two very large council estates, the Meadows and Clifton. The Meadows is in the Adaki 10% most economically deprived category for the United Kingdom. These areas have a very large proportion of children aged under 16 who are living in income deprived families. And as you can see there, our PP, SEND and EAL numbers are above national average. As we are a Church of England school, our vision is based around a piece of scripture, which you can see on the screen just there, which is Philippians 4 verse 13, which is I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. We believe that the NTP programme works really well with our mission to remove the barriers of learning for all of our students. If we can move on to the next slide, please. So as you can see there, we have used 3 different routes to provide tuition to our students. We have got full-time academic mentors who work in school and they provide support mainly to our Key Stage 4 pupil premium students and also those who we have identified are in our English and Maths match-up cohort. We also utilise a number of tuition partners including Yippee Action Tutoring and My Tutor, and I will go into more details about those shortly. As well as that, we have in-school tutoring and we have a focused intervention sessions where small groups of students, both before and after school, as well as during the school holidays, take part in bespoke intervention. On top of all of that, we have our reading support programme, which we utilise Fresh Start and is delivered by 3 of our level 3 TAs, as well as our literacy coordinator. Our main focus for that is our Key Stage 3 students, those who were typically not ready for secondary school. If we can move on to the next slide, please. Okay, so I'm going to spend a little bit of time talking about how we've utilised some of our tuition partners. So Yippee is one of the tuition partners we have worked very closely with at NES. We currently have, and we did last year, have a science tutor who works with small groups of students, both within our GCSE combined science lessons and also in small groups. As part of that, they target our intervention sessions based on the QLA that we have from our Year 11 and Year 10 mock assessments. We also utilise our Yap Science Tutor to work with our SEND pupils and our school refusers. Last year, we worked with one of our year 8 EHCP students who was a school refuser. He hated his science lessons and he didn't attend science in year 7 at all. So we introduced him to the Yap Science mentor at the start of year 8. At that point, he had an attendance of 37%. Whilst he mainly was refusing to attend science, we decided to try him on the one-to-one provision with our tutor. The tutor got to know him really quickly and started off with elements of science that the student was more interested in. The student quickly discovered he had a real talent for science. And by the end of the year, he was attending every single one of his science lessons and his attendance had improved by a dramatic 25%. That young man within the HCP is still within the school and he now attends every single science lesson and has continued to enjoy science in a mainstream classroom. One of the other tuition partners we utilised was My Tutor. We use those to support students outside of the school day. Students with their parents were able to choose times that were best for them to do their intervention. That included in the evenings, at the weekend, or in the school holidays. We utilised our PP and our vulnerable students for this intervention. We also have our bespoke school-led tuition, which is for every single student in year 11, as well as our year 13s who have a bespoke intervention programme. And I'm going to look at in a moment how we decided who was doing what. And finally, our action tutoring and fresh starts focused on our Key Stage 3 students. We identified these students using the NGRT, as well as the GL progress assessments in English, Maths and Science with their Key Stage 2 data. The students who had a standardised score of 90 to 99 were prioritised for action tutoring, which was a mixture of literacy and numeracy in small group support, and those with a score of under 90 or with reading standards of 1 to 2 started on the Fresh Start programme. I actually attended our celebration event just yesterday lunchtime for our year 7s and 8s to celebrate how successful they had been and also to give certificates to the students who had graduated from that Fresh Start reading programme. If we could move on to the next slide, please. So how do we select our students for our national tuition funding projects? I've already talked to you about how we selected those at Key Stage 3. This slide is mainly for those at Key Stage 4. Within Archway Learning Trust, we have regular raising standards meetings, which are held with the senior leadership team, heads of department, head of year 11, SENCO, our designated safeguard lead, as well as our attendance team. And we use those meetings to review the progress throughout the last wave of intervention, and as well as to highlight students in need of additional intervention, taking into account obviously the progress scores in their subjects, as well as other pastoral issues such as attendance. At the bottom of the screen, you can see a very small snippet of what the spreadsheet looks like when we are selecting students for their bespoke intervention within school. And you can see that we've got progress scores for each of the subjects and baskets. We start with looking at our PP students, then our looked after children and our SEND, alongside any other children that we identify as vulnerable within the year group. And all of that is then recorded on that spreadsheet so that we can measure the impact of those interventions later at the end of that wave of intervention. If we can move on to our next slide, please. So we, as many secondary schools across the UK, have suffered some significant challenges since COVID, and I'm just going to talk about some of those now. One of those was attendance. During COVID, our attendance dropped dramatically from around 94% to down to 90.5%, as you can see, for the years 22 to 23. Utilising our pupil premium money, we have increased our attendance team to a team of 3, and we now have a community support officer. And so far this academic year, he has already conducted over 1,100 home visits, and our attendance is up on 2% from this time last year. Our other big challenge is literacy across the school. A positive impact of our literacy interventions, both inside and outside of school, has had a huge impact on not only attendance, but also progress across all of our subjects. If our students feel they can access the material within the classroom, they are more motivated to attend. Our final challenge, and probably one of our biggest, has been the mental health and well-being of our students within our school. We have seen a significant increase in the number of students and their parents experiencing negative mental health and well-being since COVID. So once again, utilising our pupil premium money, we have ensured that we have full-time counselling support in place at Nottingham Emmanuel School. We have a Nottingham Emmanuel School counsellor who works alongside a team of CASI counsellors, as well as working alongside the local authority mental health support team to run a variety of interventions, including one-to-one counselling, as well as small group anxiety-based intervention sessions. All of those interventions have been funded by our pupil premium money and are outlined in our pupil premium strategy on our school website. If you could change to the next slide, please. So the impact of all of these tuition types of tuition that we've utilised our NTP money for has been quite significant. You can see there that our Year 11 Progress 8 score for the students who have taken part on the NTP programmes has raised by plus 0.65 from the beginning of the school year, and our Attainment 8 score by 4.7. Our 5+ English and Maths match-up has improved by 13%. You can see on there all our other impacts of interventions as well. So our action tutoring and our Fresh Start intervention has led to a very large increase in terms of stanines in the NGRT. So as you can see there, we've got for all students by almost 2 stanines, and for our SEND students, they've almost raised by 3 stanines, which was actually the highest within our multi-academy trust in the last academic year. Alongside all of the data, we can see that it's had a significant increase in pupil confidence and self-esteem. Our school refuser attendance has increased by up to 15%, and we've also increased our 4+ EM match-up for our pupil premiums students by 11%. So we have utilised our funding to have a massive impact, not just on the data, but also on pupil confidence and self-esteem. If we can move on to the next slide, please. So looking forward to the rest of the year, we are starting to move our NTP money over to our Year 10 cohort, especially with the work of our academic mentors and Yippee app interventions. We have just started doing raising standard meetings for our Year 10 to ensure that we can have that bespoke intervention for every single one of our Year 10 students. In the run-up to our GCSE, our one-to-one provision has moved onto just our most vulnerable Year 11 students who are really struggling to come into school in the weeks and days that follow as the GCSE exams start in the next week. And they're mainly students that are struggling with mental health, anxiety, and attendance. We are running a drop-down day for Year 10 in the run-up to their summer mocks on revision techniques and self-care, as well as identifying the foundation curriculum cohort for our Year 9 students and doing some initial work with those Year 9s to get them ready for the GCSE launch in Year 10. Finally, we're using our 16 to 19 funding to work with our Year 12 students on a package called UpLearn to help them prepare for their summer mocks. So although there is only 1 term left of the NTP money, we are making sure that as many students as possible at Nottingham Emmanuel School can benefit from that money for the rest of the academic year. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for your time, Sandra. It's fantastic to hear how your pupils are benefiting from tutoring and your plans for the rest of the academic year. We're really grateful to you for joining us. If you have any questions for Sandra, please do pop them in the chat. I'm now going to look at the different tutoring routes in more detail. There are 3 routes to tutoring, and we recommend schools consider using one or a combination of these options. Tuition partners, which are quality assured organisations that deliver specialist support either online or face-to-face. School-led tutoring, which is where you can pay your own staff to deliver tutoring, offering flexibility for schools to use existing staff, such as teachers or teaching assistants, or new staff specifically employed for tutoring. Academic mentors, who are recruited and placed in school to work alongside your school staff. The deadline has now passed to request a new academic mentor, but for those with an existing academic mentor, they can work in your school until the end of the academic year. Training from EDT is available for academic mentors and school-led tutors. I will now move on to the school-led tutoring route. This route offers flexibility for you to identify your own tutors. These may be people from the existing staff, such as classroom teachers or teaching assistants. Alternatively, you might want to use retired, supply, or returning teachers. You, as school leaders, are best placed to decide who will be an appropriate tutor with the skills and experience to meet the needs of your pupils. If you are employing new staff as tutors, you should ensure that all mandatory background checks have been completed. It is the responsibility of you as a school to agree the terms of the tutor's employment. If you are using current staff, you should ensure that tutoring is in addition to the staff members' core roles and responsibilities. School-led tutors can access high-quality training from the Education Development Trust, and this is mandatory for staff without QTS. School-led tutoring can also build on existing relationships between teachers, teaching assistants, and pupils. I'll now talk more about the tuition partner route in more detail. Tuition partners are expert tutoring organisations quality assured on our behalf by Tribal Group. You can only use your NTP funding on a tutoring organisation that is an approved tuition partner. All of the approved tuition partners are listed on the Find a Tuition Partner service. If you have previously been working with an organisation that is not listed, please ask them to contact Tribal to find out how they can become an approved tuition partner. You should agree your own contract with a tuition partner, including things like the cost of tuition, their services, and any other relevant arrangements. As with all 3 tuition routes, please do keep accurate records of all tutoring you have delivered. Many schools have told us about the success they've had using an external tuition partner, and some examples of the benefits are shown on screen now. I'll just highlight the one about reducing workload. Many TPs can help to relieve some of the admin burden on schools by coordinating your school's tutoring, helping with timetabling, delivering the sessions, measuring the impact on pupils, and reporting back to the class teacher. You'll see details of how to find a tuition partner at the bottom of the slide. The tool has been developed by DFE and is an excellent way for schools to find quality assured tuition partners. It uses a variety of parameters to quickly filter the most suitable tuition partner for your school. I'm now going to hand over to Ben from Education Development Trust to talk about the training and services on offer.
Thanks, Atika. Hi, everybody, and thank you for your time today. Thanks especially to Sandra for those fantastic insights. I'm Ben. I'm here today representing Education Development Trust, or EDT, as some of you may know us. And as Atika mentioned, we provide tutor training as part of the NTP and have done now for the last 2 years or so. If you could switch to the next slide, please. So some of you might already know EDT from our NPQs. For anyone who doesn't know us, we're a not-for-profit, and our focus is improving education outcomes in various parts of the world, including, of course, the UK. So with that said, it's been an immense privilege for us to deliver the school-led tutor and academic mentor training on the NTP and to play a part in removing barriers and improving outcomes for the pupils that the NTP aims to support. But moving on from the sentimental stuff, some key points on this slide about the training. So the training is free. But please bear in mind what Atika said earlier, that the subsidy is for tutoring only. Schools therefore should be compensating staff members for their time spent training. The training is self-directed, so the time required will vary for each individual and according to which pathway they're doing, but for non-QTS staff, we estimate around 14 hours of study. The course includes various pathways to ensure that the training is tailored effectively to the skills and experience of each tutor. The most common question that we get about the training is whether staff with QTS have to take it, and the short answer is no. But there is training available for QTS staff, and there are pathways for them, and we naturally recommend that those are taken advantage of. The QTS pathway should take between 6 and 8 hours. Next slide, please. So the training we've created for NTP is all based in research, and it focuses on translating that research into best practice techniques and strategies that your tutors can apply in your school. The course is flexible, self-directed and online. It can be accessed easily on all devices, and it's designed to support tutors to develop an even stronger understanding of the practices that are going to have the greatest impact on the pupils that they'll be tutoring. In addition to the core training, we also host a range of regular seminars, tutor focus groups and panel-led spotlight events, which give tutors further CPD opportunities and the chance to collaborate across settings and share best practices. This is the last term where we'll be running live events, but recordings of previous live events are all available to participants. Next slide, please. So this slide gives an outline of the training options, both for school-led tutors and academic mentors. For school-led tutors, there are 2 different pathways for QTS teachers, one for early career teachers and one for more experienced practitioners with QTS. In case you missed it earlier, the training isn't compulsory for staff with QTS, but we do recommend it. All of the pathways provide subject and phase-specific content, and for anyone who has completed the training in the previous year and would like a refresher, there is an optional refresher pathway available. At the end of each pathway, there's a multiple choice assessment. Those are all written and endorsed by the Chartered College of Teaching. Participants need to score at least 80% to pass, and they have 3 attempts to do so. If the academic mentor or tutor have QTS and pass one of the assessments, then they'll qualify for credits towards Chartered Teacher status with the Chartered College of Teaching. Participants also have the opportunity to complete a further advanced assessment to gain credits towards the Chartered College of Teaching's Professional Knowledge Award. And these are all really valuable and unique professional development opportunities, and I'm sure you'll want to encourage your staff to make the most of them. Next slide, please. So in addition to the training course, we've created and curated a lot of resources for tutors. They're all housed on the Tutor Development Portal, which is a platform that they all have access to, and it sits in the same digital space as their training. We also have a platform for school leaders, and this has been designed to support you in your roles to make the most of the NTP training course and to help you to plan and implement high quality tutoring provision for your pupils. So you'll get access to the school leader portal once you register to use the tutor nomination portal. And we do update the school leader portal regularly. So our latest addition is our tutoring impact support framework, which is a research-based tool designed to support you to evaluate and to enhance your entire tutoring provision. So that's a whistle-stop tour of EDT and the NTP training course. If you have any questions at all, please do put them in the chat, and the DFE will also be sending out any important links and contact information. They'll also be sending out a holiday tuition checklist that we've created. So again, this is a research-based guide, and it's there to support you to implement and to manage any tutoring that you might be delivering in the holidays, or that a tuition partner might be delivering for you in the holidays. Whichever of those routes you're taking, this tool is going to support you with that. It covers all of the key areas that you can see listed on the slide here, and sort of guides you through the process in a best practice grounded way to manage all of your holiday tuition. So yes, thank you everybody for your time today. I'll pass you back over to Atika.
Thanks so much for that, Ben. The NTP has evolved over the years based on feedback from schools. We know from conversations with school leaders and teachers that some of these changes have caused confusion and there are still some misconceptions about the NTP. So before we finish off today, I'm now going to pass over to my colleague Elise to do some myth busting.
Thanks, Atika. Hi, my name is Elise and I work on the National Tutoring Programme in the Stakeholder Engagement team. Today I'll be talking through some of the common myths and misconceptions about the programme. Some schools think that they have to spend their allocation in full. As shown by the funding example Atika shared earlier, you can decide how much of your NTP allocation you wish to spend, depending on your school's needs and priorities. You may find it more appropriate to focus on supporting a smaller group of pupils using just a proportion of your grant. Some schools have said that it's difficult to find a tuition partner in their area. Well, in the past 12 months or so, we've increased the pool of TPs by 22 organisations. The Find a Tuition Partner service enables you to filter results, including by area and whether you're looking for face-to-face or online tuition. If you are still struggling to find a suitable TP in your area, you could consider the school-led tutoring route. You may think that there will be a huge admin burden. We'd like to reassure you that there's not. You don't need to keep timesheets or upload paperwork anywhere. You just need to keep your own records of tuition delivered and record this in the year-end statement. Our calculator tool can help you with this. There has been some confusion around who has to do the training. It is only mandatory for those without QTS. If your school-led tutor has QTS, they do not need to do the training. There are, however, resources via EDT, like Ben said, that are available if they would like to expand upon their knowledge. You may think that it's hard to claim the funding. Schools do not need to request NTP funding. There is a single source of funding to allow schools greater flexibility. This is paid automatically to schools in 3 termly instalments. You'll all receive your final instalment this term. It is a common misunderstanding that the funding can only be used to deliver tuition to pupil premium eligible pupils. Whilst you're encouraged to prioritise your pupil premium pupils, you're also encouraged to consider pupils who would benefit from tutoring. For example, those who are below the relevant grade boundary, or even those who are absent from school, as mentioned earlier. Lots of schools ask whether they can use NTP funding for other SEND interventions. The answer is yes. It gives you flexibility to choose any of the 3 tutoring routes that best suit the need of your school. The funding can be used for alternative, evidence-based interventions such as speech and language therapy. Thank you, and I will now pass you back over to Atika.
Thank you so much, Elise. So that brings us to the end of today's webinar. A big thank you to Sandra and Ben for joining us today. We will send you all an email with the slides and responses to the questions in an FAQ document shortly. Finally, I'd like to thank you for sparing the time to learn more about how you can support your pupils through the National Tutoring Programme this academic year. I hope you enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you.